for this unbroken chain of supertankers from the Middle East to the American shoreline. It is by design. It has been done deliberately with malice aforethought. And it's all about geopolitical power, not money. Power. Because when you're talking about a $7 to $8 trillion part of the world economy, you're not talking about money the way you and I talk about it. Gee, I have 4 daughters. Can I put them through college? Particularly when I kicked my medical career to the curb to pursue this madness.
How much is that?
We think of money that way. But I want you to start thinking of it another way. And that is the ability to be a master of the universe. And the folks who keep this world addicted to the oil economy, it's not even about oil per se. It's about centralized power, centralized distribution of energy that runs the entire industrial world. And who's in the catbird seat running it. If you know nothing else from this talk, remember that. It is about power. The unfortunate thing about that, and I don't know if these guys are just guys who were not breastfed long enough by their mothers or what, but I'm sorry, but I just had the flash on this. But the truth is, there is this addictive quality to power, and a particularly covert power. It is an aphrodisiac. It is a drug. And there are a certain number of people who are desperately addicted to it, and they're dragging down the earth and human civilization with them. It's our responsibility to help them overcome their addiction. It's our responsibility not to be enablers of this situation. The CIA director and I had a 3-hour meeting. And during the course of these 3 hours, I went through the evidence, and I went through documents, and I went through all this stuff. And, that lasted approximately 9.3 minutes. The rest of the 2.5 hours or so was spent on who the hell are running these projects? Why are we being kept in the dark? And what are the implications of this information coming out? And I say to people, no aspect of life on earth will be unchanged by the disclosure of this information. It has been kept secret not because it's trivial. It's been kept secret because its release would transform the current situation and the current order to one that would be more different than the time of the caveman. Imagine a time when we will have no pollution, no poverty, where every home and vehicle has its own access for generating energy and power. This is not the Jetsons and futuristic looking down 2300. This is something that is extant, on the planet, operational today. This is very good news. The problem is, it's in a black box, hermetically sealed, guarded fiercely, and as Ben Rich, who had been head of Lockheed Skunk Works, told a group of my people before he died, he said that, we already have the means to travel among the stars. But those technologies are locked away in a super secret project, and it would take an act of God to ever get them out to benefit humanity. And it's a crying shame. While our boys are dying in Iraq, fighting over the second largest oil field in the world. Let me tell you a story. February of 2003, a very close friend of the Bush family, who I work with, the consigliere financially for them, called me up and said, we're going into Iraq. They won't find weapons of mass destruction. I'm quoting. Because those have mainly been eliminated. But we have got to free up the second largest oil field in the world, because with China industrializing at 10 or 15% a year with their 1.2 billion people, and India industrializing at 10% a year with their 1.1 billion people, we are on a collision course where we will bring Western civilization to its knees if we don't increase production of that stuff. I thought he'd lost his mind.
We arrived unannounced, but within seconds were being mobbed by people desperate for our attention. They showed us photographs and held up banners with stories of corruption, police brutality and sons killed in detention. Crowding in, determined their voices were heard. One of the women pleaded with us to film her, saying she'd been beaten by police. These are very rare pictures in China. This kind of discontent is seldom filmed. We couldn't stay long. They said the police were coming. But in just 4 minutes, we'd attracted a growing crowd. Before leaving, our camera was drawn to a man bearing the burn scars of a past protest. His banner read, "Human rights are more important than living." But this is what's causing the greatest anger. Homes and land being seized by the government and sold to developers to build on. These are some of the victims. They've spent all winter living in tents in temperatures well below freezing, after their own governments demolished their homes to develop the land. We wanted to record their story, but police had been tipped off we were coming, and were determined to stop us filming. So we went back at night. This small tent is all Wan Baolong and his wife have left to live in. He told me how the government evicted him by force, so he set up camp where his house once stood. All he wants is enough compensation to buy a new home. It takes courage in China to talk to foreign journalists and criticize your own government like this.
There's nothing we can do. Nothing. We went to the Chinese media, but they're too scared to report it. The government won't listen. They just bully the ordinary people. They're eating our flesh and drinking our blood. They're picking our bones clean.
Wang Shuiyi is another demolition victim. This is all that's left of the home she'd lived in since childhood. She's put up her tent where her living room was. In it she's made a shrine to her late husband. He died after they were given their eviction notice. She claims officials hounded him to his death.
They're stealing our homes. It's theft. Just theft. The poor have no human rights, no way of surviving. We've been everywhere for help.
This is the flip side to China's economic miracle. In the country's massive property boom, government officials and developers are making untold billions seizing people's land to build on. It's a land grab on an unprecedented scale, and the full force of the state is being used to crush any protest.
It looks like a medieval battle, but this is protest control in 21st century China. An army of hired thugs move in on villagers to seize their land. They're armed with guns and stun grenades that meet fierce resistance, as villagers fight back with farm tools in a pitch battle last year that claimed 6 lives. These kinds of clashes are hardly ever filmed, but they're happening more and more often. Apart from the violence, the pictures are striking because they're taken by the protesters themselves. More and more people are filming what's happening to them. Here, neighbours secretly record the moment police drag an old man from his home. Then his ill wife is hauled away, still in her sick bed. Minutes later, demolition teams move in to tear down their house for development. These poignant pictures are of a man racked with grief in the minutes after his house is demolished. He argues with police in impotent fury before claiming what's left of his home, sitting on its rubble, consoling his grandson. We can only catch glimpses, but in booming China, there's an